this is Scott. I'm re-recording a video for you because I realized that one of the videos that I had posted to the groups and the YouTube, which was on 3 things that I thought were important right now, didn't actually contain volume for some of you. And as I looked at the YouTube video itself, I in fact could not hear me talking. So unless you were a lip reader, you probably didn't get that last video. I think it had something to do with the mic that I was using, so I'm going to look at that and see if I can make as good sound quality without it. So initially I had created a video which was going to be about altars. I did actually make that video and it will be out on Friday. But I got sidetracked. I got sidetracked by life in a really good way. As I looked through my journals, as I looked over my writing and my self-reflection, I started to ask myself what was really important right now for me to be engaging in. I reflected on a few other pieces that I got from some classes that I'm in and some other material that I was reading. You know, I tend to take in a lot of information and collate it all together and just see where it lands for me and if it's important and what I can do with it. Specifically, sometimes, you know, if it's something that's for my own personal practice, something that is assisting me, and or if it's something that I can offer to folks I'm working with. So there were a lot that came up in this last week, and that had a lot to do with information. That information was dubious, if not false, and there was a lot of infighting and fighting around that. And I find that just in general with that type of information, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sure you could visit one of your socials and figure it out. Generally, when that kind of information hits the scene, it's usually with a less than positive ending result. It's weird. I don't know how people don't see that, but it tends to often end up with people fighting with one another, arguing, and those sorts of things. And I found myself with someone saying, hey, I don't think that you should maybe be posting this, and it got twisted and turned all around into a whole other thing. For me, it's conversation. It's talking about information, and for other people, you know, it falls into the realm of belief, and those are different levels of understanding, right? So I had to look at my writing. I had to go over what I wrote. That's the good point about journals, is to be able to look back over them, especially I kind of color code things, you know, with purple and green and red and black, blue in my journal, so I can look about where I'm quoting something or who's talking, or you know, if it was a shadow work piece, I tend to write in my journal where I write out unedited what I feel, and then look at that after the intensity of feeling is gone, because, you know, feelings are transient in a lot of ways. And then I can look at it with a more neutral eye and say, okay, you know, what is this about myself, or what is this about the other person? Was the reaction, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you know, find my part in it and work to heal that part. That's a great way to use the journal to shadow work. I had to say to myself, why am I engaging this information? Is it important to me? And do I have any part with it, right? It was on social media. I didn't. Actually, I didn't. You know, I needed to look at my desire to not see those I love hurt. And that was at an essence what my point was. And so that put me back into practice mode then, because then I had an understanding of what was happening there. And I used some things that I wanted to offer you today. The first one, I'm just going to say it, maybe this is the secret 4th thing, which is writing. And I mean writing. I mean writing with a pen if you can, and paper and writing. There's something that's translated in our mental, emotional bodies into the physical differently when we use pen and paper, or pencil and paper, whatever you're using. And if we're typing on a keyboard, there's an emotionality to it, there's an honesty to it that's different. Writing not for other people's viewing, but writing just for yourself, for your own viewing. We live in a culture where everything is a seen be seen, and what am I doing and how do I produce it to put it on the internet, right? And journal isn't necessarily for that. Although there are good things about good old live journal that I remember being able to process privately with people. But I digress. So secret fourth there is journaling, but the three that I wanted to talk about was first is meditation, and engaging in meditation that allows for you to do some sort of stillness practice where you're kind of voiding out from everything else, right? Not to escape, although that may be like a secondary benefit to in which you are using meditation, and you sort of disconnect from the energy of things to really be in silence or stillness and with your own thoughts. Much like a journal, it is self-reflective, and it can help you to be in a place where you're breathing good, and you're thinking about yourself, hopefully in a non-judgmental way, and moving into a place where it's less about emotional intensity and the storm of our thoughts, and more about the stillness of where we are and being present in the now. It's Eastern, it's a little Zen, and there are various forms of that, and I teach various forms of that. Some of those are in our private YouTube videos for students and clients, and some of those are in classes, and some of those are on the Patreon. Everything is in the link in the comments of the video. I'm not here to sell you my meditation. I'm here to encourage you to meditate. There's lots of great information out there. Should you go and search for stillness meditation or metta, sitting Zen, any of those things, pick your path and open it up. There's a great tree of meditation, and it shows up in contemplative practice, and it shows up in a variety of ways for us. So meditation not as a use of journey work and going places and doing things, but as a way to sort of quiet ourselves and be with ourselves and to feel and to be more fully present without engaging everything else that's happening around us. It's a mental break. It's self-care. It's moving into a kind of void, right? Which is a place where we can reset, right? Like we get when we were like really deeply sleeping, right? So meditation, key one, that's a really great thing to do. The second thing is clearing. Especially people who are dealing in energy work, who are doing readings, who are doing lots of magic. The ability to clear ourselves should be one of our top skills, right? A simple way to do that, we teach in the Reiki classes, which is dry brushing, which is taking, for example, my right hand or your right hand over the left side of the body and dry brushing the body with the intention to move the energy, and then the left over the right, and then down the front, and then down the back, right? And clearing yourself. In the Inner Temple of Witchcraft, in the public book, and some of the teachings, Christopher Pensack calls it balance and clearance, and that's taking the hands and going over the front of the self and brushing down the energy system and down into the earth. I like to visualize a cauldron there, catching all of that energy and burning it up to be recycled as something else. I have other people who have used a violet flame on the floor, or imagining mushrooms, whatever works. It's a conscious act in which you are choosing to remove energy from the body, other connections from other people, and letting things go. More advanced forms of that would be a salt bath is a great way to soak. Feels good if you can do this. And salt is naturally purifying, and it helps to remove things from the body. The other thing that you can do is, if you don't have a bath, is you could take a large bowl of water, hot, and dissolve the salt. Maybe you throw, if you're a green witch and you use herbs and things, you might put those inside there. I don't think that's necessary to do that, although it can be an added benefit. You let that dissolve in the water, then you take that into the shower. Before you go through all the routine of, soaping up and all those things, you pour the warm water, let it cool. You pour the warm water over the body with the intention and the desire to allow that salt to clear any energetic connections from your body. What's the ratio? If I had like a 1 or 2 gallon bowl, I might put in like a teaspoon of salt. That's plenty. You don't need to use too much salt. A pinch often is enough, right? There are ways to do that with candle flames. There are ways to do that with smoke. There are ways to do that with feathers. There are ways to do that with, there's lots of ways to clear yourself, but finding an energetic practice that allows for you to clear the energy from your bodies, in addition to the meditation and self-reflection, is very good at this time. And the third thing that I really like to emphasize with people is usually protection. Now, I've been in classes before where people are like, oh, protection is bad because it's blocking you from other people's feelings and having a direct experience with someone. We don't need to be open to everyone all the time for all of these things, because there's not great people, right? I'm not criticizing anyone. I'm just saying we find ourselves in places where we're very emotionally reactive, and that's not necessarily healthy, or you want to connect with it, right? So a good protection shield is a filter, like your skin, right? Your skin filters out, hopefully, what is unhealthy for you, and takes in, like the things that you need, like oxygen and other things, absorbs water, keeps the stuff inside. And I'm sure someone who is more familiar with the body will say the skin also can do all these sorts of things, and you are correct. A good shield is a filter, and that filter will allow for you to filter in what's healthy for you, while sort of rebounding what's not, or keeping out what's not. So in my meditation classes, what I usually do is tell people to center themselves, to center on their heart, to feel the alignment of their body, to do some breath work, and some energy sensitivity type of movements and visualization to feel the volume of their energy. I usually tell people, like when you look at a book on auras, or those sorts of things, they'll give you a diagram which is roughly 3 or 4 feet. I tend to put my arm out, right? So I put my arm out as far as it'll go, and I'll say, that's probably the end of my radiance right there. Generally, my personal energy right there. That's a good volume, So I'll have people sort of mime that area and visualize or feel with their hand chakras, the energy of that field all around them. It's very rounded. Some people will use an egg shape, whatever shape you prefer. I generally think the round one is good. I feel that area. And when I feel that area, I imagine that edge that my palm is sensing has now become crystalline. It has become threaded, like a weave or a tapestry. It has become something that is strong, right? That creates a barrier, right? That barrier is a filter. And in the example of being crystalline, it still allows light through, but it's hard enough to deflect what's unhealthy, right? In a weave, it's porous, it keeps out, like if you've ever used cheesecloth, right? It allows for the liquid to come through, but it keeps the extra in the cloth, right? It's that kind of idea of that sort of energy that's there, so that it breathes, right? Good things can still come to you, healthy things can still come to you, but what's not healthy for you, right? And that's usually what I suggest is this healthy for me? If it's not, let that be reflected, right? And as I learned in the Temple of Witchcraft, let that be deflected as divine love back to the source, right, of wherever it came from, or let it be deflected into the earth and transformed into something healthy for the land where I am at. The piece that I really wanted to put forward this week, journal, meditate, clearing exercises, protection, was this: invisibility. In high magic, we do something called the rose cross, or some people will say the rosy cross ritual, and it is a kind of protection that I find in my uses that sort of creates like a little cloak of invisibility. I got that from Donald Michael Craig, the late Donald Michael Craig. And it's a way to use light and energy and intention to create an invisibility to certain things. There's a lot of information out there right now, and I like to align myself with truth. I like to ground myself, in magic, and I like to be present. And I look at information when it comes to me and ask, is this trying to shock me? Is this trying to pop me? Is this trying to yank me into some sort of awakening or something? It's trying to get ya, right? That sort of information should not yank me, should not pop me, right? If it is, it's probably me, right? There's a portion of it that's me. I'm being triggered by something, and I need to maybe go back to the journal and meditation parts of things and the clearing parts of things to look at what that is. But I don't want that information to come at me in the first place, right? I don't need to necessarily engage it, right? I'm trying not to be judgmental here because I don't want this to be a judgment on anything other than what is the right energy for you and what isn't. So the practice is creating a field that is invisible to see how that changes your interaction with information that doesn't necessarily seem to fit in with your purpose, your direction, or with your overall health. Information is not just about what it says, right? It's also who created it, right? Where did it come from? What's the source, right? And what is their motivation? Because all these things are thought forms. If you were on our Instagram or one of our private groups, we had a little excerpt about thought forms there. Some of these things are healthy and some of them are not, right? So we want to, in my opinion, make ourselves invisible to those unhealthy things. It's an added layer to that protection. So what I'll usually do, and I invite you to sit with me or to listen and come back and sit again, is I go through the meditation process where I have us start to breathe as we feel the alignment of our body, our head, our shoulders, our chest, our hips, our feet, our hands, and adjust ourselves. And we come into this place of meditation. I then feel my heart, and I start to breathe here. And there are rhythms and counts and things that we do when we do this, and that's all part of meditation training. I'm just walking you through the example. And then I deepen my breathing into my gut, into my body. I feel my feet. I allow myself to be fully present in my body, and I feel this alignment of the spine, the depth of my breath, with the intention to relax, release, and let go. I imagine that my heart is aligned. I look at the heart center as a way to interact with the world, and so I imagine that as a light that sort of fills or glows or creates a radius around me to that level that we talked about with our hands, right? So then that's a protection, and I say that that's a protective shield, and it filters out all that's unhealthy for me and reflects back divine love towards that healthy source, and inside all the healthy good stuff gets to me, right? So that this is a system in which health is being filtered in. The trick with invisibility that I got from that Rosy Cross ritual was a quality of light or a color of light that I find healthy. In the Rosy Cross ritual, we will go around and we will draw crosses and roses and colors and create a sphere around us, right? And that sphere is then programmed for a certain purpose. Some people say that it's a very meditative act, and in that way it's protective, and others say that, in doing these certain things and saying certain words or phrases, it activates a magical protection. I think both are true. What I derive from it, right, as a person who runs energy and does energy work, is the color and quality of light. And so that's what I want us to tune in today and see where that practice can take us. So we get into our meditation practice, we feel our alignment, we feel our breathing, we feel the edges of our aura, we feel that filter, we acknowledge that protection and the health that's allowed within this space. Then we visualize above our heads a golden light. That golden light as if through a mist, like it's a foggy day and the sun is behind it. That golden light is still penetrating the fog, and so the fog begins to grow gold, yellowy gold. But it's very soft, it's very misty. And as we feel and visualize that, we begin to feel that mist, which is turning gold, begin to flow over our bodies, flow over our fields, that little field that we visualized, until there is a golden mist that's very soft, very diffuse, all around us, above, below, and in every direction. That golden mist, we focus on that golden light, which is warming and protective, and that mist which is cooling and obscuring. We want to charge that, right? We want to charge that golden mist because we don't want to be invisible to everything, right? Because we want cars to see us, and we want our loved ones to see us. We don't necessarily want to be visible to maybe sources of really bad information that are trying to shock or pop people, right? Maybe we want to be invisible to certain psychic influences or eyes. We start to get a little occult when I explain this one, but I think that's okay, because if we understand the world is projection and reception, and that there's thought and energy, and all these things are sort of going around. This is a method, and it's a reduced method from the Rosy Cross, which allows for us to intend or charge that golden field as an invisibility to those psychic eyes, right? So that energy, which is seeking to shock with information that cannot be proven for reasons I do not know, that eye passes over me because it can no longer see me. And all individuals who connect with that information can no longer perceive me as well unless they are ready to perceive the truth, unless they are ready to perceive love, unless they are ready to be present with me, unless they are ready to have dialogue with me. What's your operative words there, right? So in general, you can use it as protection in the form of invisibility by creating this golden field around yourself, this misty golden field around yourself, and imagining that whatever it is outside that you feel is coming at you, right? And there's levels here that we can talk about with protection. Maybe that's another video. You become invisible to it. That any energy or intention that comes at you, you already have a filter that's healthy and protective in that sort of sense. This is just an added layer, right? When we do energy practices, when we do meditative practices, the more we do them, the better we get at them, right? So a simple meditative practice in this would be sitting in comfort or lying in comfort, aligning yourself, feeling comfort and relaxation in your body. Centering on your heart as you breathe deeply to relax, release, and let go. Allowing your light to fill the area of your aura, right? Your radiance. How far out does that go? Find a personal level within the 3 to 5 foot range and activate that as a protection. That protection is a filter. It allows the good and healthy things in. And then draw down a misty golden light around you and intend that you be invisible to fill in the blank, right? Be careful with that. Use it with love. Use it with light. Use it because it's powerful. And let me know how it goes for you. So this is the re-recording of the video that for whatever reason went to silence, and I'm putting it out there again for you. Journal, meditate, clear yourself, protect yourself, and try an invisibility. Ask yourself, as the world is engaging you, is this important to me? What is happening here? And what's my part in it? Maybe you don't have one. Maybe you don't need to engage it. And that's what I'm going to leave you with. This is Scott Smith. I have a couple of websites, the Temple Los Angeles, which is temple-la.com, thesacredother.com, and you can also find me on Patreon. Everything is in the link in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed. Let me know how this works for you. Bye.